YouTube channel near you.
Well, hello there, everybody. How come you're not partying at Mardi Gras right now?
I have to work after this, and then I'm going to another parade. So
yeah, I seen your Mardi Gras pictures. Like, oh, look at me! I'm Mardi Gras. Welcome everybody on a Friday night edition. It is 59 degrees up here outside Indianapolis, mostly cloudy. Hello, Standing Stones, Lulu, Lorna, Cassie, Amy. Let's see, Michelle's in the house. As everybody's starting to slide in, Colleen, nice to see you there. And so, man, what a case that somebody brought to us, haven't they?
yes, very interesting.
I know. So we're going to be looking at some unsolved murders at East Liverpool Furniture Store in Ohio. So, yes, I did dip my in the fountain of youth today. I looked like I was going to war. I had black hair. Mary's
Oh,
like,
no.
good God, Grizzly. She's been there with alcohol and paper towels trying to clean my face up. So we got a special guest joining us tonight that brought to this case to our attention. So let's bring her in. Angela, hello. How are you doing?
Doing great this evening.
Well, good. So this case, talk to us about this case. What's going on with it?
This happened in my hometown, and I learned about it when I was a little girl, because this murder happened before I was born. And my father told me about it. He actually parked the car at the location where the furniture store was and proceeded to tell me what happened. And it was just so horrible and so horrendous. You just can't imagine that anybody would want to hurt a little girl, a pregnant woman, and an elderly man. And what he told me is that that these victims, they were beaten to death with a hammer.
Claw hammer. Yep. Oh.
And
That's
the
awful.
and the suspect, and this was in broad daylight in the middle of the afternoon. And when the perpetrator left the store, he actually caught a little boy who witnessed this, and he hurt the little boy. But the little boy got away. The little boy is now a little bit older than I am, but he was severely traumatized by that. And all that he could provide the police was that the suspect had red hair, and that was it. But until this day, I mean, it haunts my hometown to this day because this is not
51 years ago. It happened in 73.
Yeah, and it's haunts this town, and everybody still speaks so well of Earl Tweed. That's how what of a wonderful man that he was. I mean, who would want to hurt this harmless old man? And especially over 50 years later, people still talk about how kind he was, how generous he was. Anybody that was down on their luck, he would help them. And that's what she was there for. She was in that furniture store because she was pregnant. Her husband was in town, just got a job. She needed an apartment for their growing family, and she needed help with rent. And he was more than willing to help her out. And then this person came in and ruined everybody's lives. For the next 50 years is for the loved ones involved. A lot of the loved ones have passed. I know that Linda's sister is still very much alive, and she keeps Linda's memory alive. The town of East Liverpool keeps her memory
We got
alive.
pictures we can display while you're talking.
Sure. Absolutely. And so do you have the photos and the video available to pull up?
Yeah. Oh, you want me to do it? Yeah, I can do it.
So, do we know how this unfolded?
The police have a theory that what had happened is that this was a robbery, and that this robbery went horribly wrong, and that's what they believe. However, me and a friend of mine, we actually did some psychically to reach out to Linda and to Earl Tweed, and we never had this much clear communication on a murder case than this one, because Linda was speaking to us through the spirit box, and she was validating what the police were stating, that that was what happened. Is that essentially she was there trying to get help with rent for an apartment, and when this violence happened, and the other psychic I was working with, he just started to cry because he was just overwhelmed with emotion, and she was coming through very clearly. She gave me the name of the suspect. I also did a portrait of what the suspect looks now. I do believe that he may confess now that he's getting closer to the end of his life, that he may confess before he passes, and he was responsible for this. It's just a horrendous crime, and any help that anybody can provide would be greatly helpful. I do know that I was told growing up, now I haven't seen this in any of the reports, but I was told growing up that initially, right after it happened, in the newspaper had actually reported that there was evidence. The suspect did drop evidence on his way up the hill. Now, what I'm talking about, that there's a hill that has steps that connects to from that street level all the way up to these apartments that were up on the hill at the time, and there were several rows of steps, and that he had actually dropped Earl Tweed's wallet there on the way up. So he may have lived in those apartments above street level there near Lisbon, that area. And I'm convinced that he still lived there. I know his name. I know his nickname. I actually saw him on a remote viewing. Linda Morris, the victim, she actually helped me connect with him to show where he was working and what his nickname was. everything. So she gave me a lot of information. I'd like to reveal some of that. But
So they didn't get fingerprints off the wallet or anything like that. And
there's no information about fingerprints off the wallet. There's no information other than that, other than he dropped Earl Tweed's personal effects there on those stairs, and there's been no information since.
So did they? I watched a YouTube video. I thought they said they got prints off the hammer. I don't remember. But they said that the reason they thought it was a robbery, one of the reasons they went right to that was because Earl was known to carry a lot of money, cash in his wallet.
Well, you stop and think a lot of older people back in that generation in those years did.
Yep.
Because they didn't believe in banks, because they lived during the Depression.
Yep.
But now we got eDNA, which they can get eDNA off the hammer and off the wallet. So that's why I was asking, is there any further testing that they can do or not?
Yeah. That I'm not aware of. I haven't heard anything about any testing on the DNA at that level. Of course, this was the 70s. I don't know if they retained any of that evidence or whether they preserved it in such a way that it could be tested.
True. That's true. How old do we think the suspect is at this point? I mean, because it's almost 52 years ago. So how old do we think he is now?
I believe I was given the impression by Linda that he's probably in his late 70s or early 80s.
Okay. All right. So 20, 30 years old at the time.
Possibly.
Okay. Yeah. Do you want us to play one of these videos?
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. So I've got the one from the news about it, and then I've got another 6-minute one from someone who's just covering in general. Let me get over to here. All right.
And each esteem others better than himself.
35 years ago today, the lives of 3 people and 1 unborn child were cut short during an apparent robbery at Tweed's furniture store in East Liverpool. The store's owner, Earl Tweed, was stabbed and beaten, while it appears Linda Morris and her 4-year-old daughter, Angela, were in the wrong place at the wrong time.
They were all killed. I can't state what the manner of death was because all that information, of course, wasn't shared, and I really don't want to know what the manner of death was.
Morris says he and Linda were expecting another child when she was killed. These murders and several others are still unsolved.
There's no taking away the pain.
Friends and family members gathered at the site to remember and honor the victims. Belinda Puchida started Columbiana County Families of Homicide Victims after her cousin Michael Williams was murdered in 2005.
When I originally started, it was Mike, and then I met 7 other families that first year. There were 7 of us, and now we're up to 20, yes.
A very emotional crowd sent a plea to the public to track down the killers and help these families find closure.
I don't want to be 35 years from now wondering what happened to Michael. Somebody knows something on every single one of these cases.
A coward walked out of that store out here onto the streets at 12:30 in the afternoon. Somebody saw that person. Somebody knows something.
Morris asks anyone with information on his wife and daughter's murders or any unsolved homicide to step up and contact local law enforcement. In East Liverpool, Dan Martin, 27 First News.
Yeah, I mean, 12:30 afternoon, somebody saw somebody leaving. But if somebody did leave the store in broad daylight, it's random, right? It's just like another shopper leaving. It's unless they ran, they're not going to draw attention to themselves.
No. So he ran. It's the kid too. Like, how did the kid just literally bump into him, or?
Yes, he literally bumped into him because he was walking down the street, and when the suspect opened the door, he literally ran into the kid and to this little boy, and he grabbed the little boy and was intent on killing him, at least according to the boy. And the boy struggled and fought and got away, but it really traumatized him. And to this day, he is unable to articulate any details about the suspect other than the suspect had red hair. and that's all he can remember about it. And he also has some long-term mental health issues as a result from this encounter. A relative of mine did try to get cold case files on this, but what they told her was that the East Liverpool Police Department has to request their involvement to be involved, and the East Liverpool Police Department has not reached out to any cold case specialists for help on this case.
Well, that's strange.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. I wonder what the reasoning would be behind that.
I have no idea what the reasoning would be. I wish they would have somebody that has more experience, or maybe some other law enforcement agency would get involved and trying to help them with something this old and just at least get it resolved, especially when Earl Tweed is so well remembered and loved, and then Linda Morris being so young and and well loved, and having this happen it's just an awful tragedy, especially in the town that I grew up in. It still very much haunts that town, and it very much haunts that entire city.
Yeah. I do have one more video. If you guys ever want to see it, and it actually does have Earl's picture with the other two victims. Well, three technically, I suppose. Let me get that pulled up here. All right.
1973, just before 1 p.m., a piercing scream shattered the still air of East Liverpool, Ohio. The woman bursting out of a furniture business at 759 Dresden Avenue. The scene would shake even the most hardened of detectives. The bodies of three people, 2 adults and a child, lay on the floor covered in blood. 75-year-old Earl Tweed, 22-year-old Linda Morris, who was 4 months pregnant, and her 4-year-old daughter, Angela Morris. By the time paramedics arrived, little Angela was barely clinging to life. She was taken to a local hospital where she succumbed to her injuries. They had all been stabbed and beaten with a claw hammer. At the time, Earl ran his furniture store business. He owned several rental properties in and around the area of East Liverpool. His store would also serve as his office. According to Linda's husband, Lou Morris, who was working nearby at a construction site, has said his wife has stopped by to see about renting a house from Tweed. The motive seems to be robbery, one detective said, and during the robbery, Linda happened with her daughter to walk in on it. The furniture store has long been closed and boarded up, but every rookie officer that comes aboard the East Liverpool, Ohio Police Department learns about this unsolved quadruple murder.
Here's the scene of the crime, 731 Dresden Avenue in East Liverpool, Ohio. This is where the triple homicide happened.
Okay, so you were telling me this story. This was Earl's used furniture store.
Yes, and it's a used furniture store, and Mr. Tweed had rental properties that people would come here and get apartments.
Right, so if you wanted an apartment or he had a house for rent, you would come to his furniture store. He didn't have a rental
he had
office.
An office in the back of it.
Okay, and this murder happened almost 50 years ago. Has there ever been any suspects in this?
Never any suspects. There was one little boy that ran into what they believe was a killer, gave him a description, but it never matched up to anybody.
And it's just one of those crimes that time has kind of forgotten in this area. And that was a very, very big story back then in this town. I mean, this is a smaller town. You're not going to have many triple murders. And as you were telling me, you said that whoever it is, the guy that committed this crime, he ran over here?
Yep. He ran into a little boy here and asked him where he lived. The little kid was freaked out. He twisted and ran away. The guy ran through this lot. He took a left down over a hill out back, ran down an alley. There's a set of steps about a quarter mile south of here that they found Mr. Tweed's wallet at the top of the stairs, and then they found the claw hammer that he beat the 3 people inside to death with.
Did they get any fingerprints off of the murder weapon?
I've never seen anything like that, but around here, podunk police departments that, you know, they're not learn more CSI from watching Beverly Hills Cop.
Did the boy that ran into the murderer, did he give a description to the cops?
Yeah, he gave them a suspect description, but it never panned out.
What did he say? What race he was?
It was a white dude. I think he had red hair. From what the kid said, but it never led to anything.
Did they think it was a robbery?
From what I've read on the story, is Mr. Tweed was known to carry a lot of money in his wallet, and like I said, his wallet was found down on these steps about a quarter mile south of here.
And this business has not been open since that murder, or
no, it closed up then, and there's a little local pottery uses it for a warehouse now, so it's all been boarded up and cleared out.
This is the grave of one of the murder victims, Earl Tweed, buried alongside his wife, Marie. Those who have loved will meet again. And a couple miles down the road, we're at the Spring Grove Cemetery, and this is the grave of Linda Marie Morris with her daughter Angela Lynn, and that would be her husband. You said that they were newlyweds when she was murdered, huh?
Yes, yeah, they were newlyweds. They just moved to town. They didn't even have an apartment here. She was looking for that apartment when she was murdered.
He got remarried and had other kids, but he still chose to be buried next to his first wife. Yeah. And she was 4 months pregnant, so you can see right here.
He actually went on to be a police officer himself. This actually started him enough to be that.
Wow. I just find it so odd how a triple murder in broad daylight.
It was Thursday at 1 in the afternoon that they were murdered on a busy street, and nothing. The guy disappeared.
It's almost like the police didn't care. Not saying they didn't care, but it was almost like maybe they knew who did it, but they just.
It's unreal.
Well, rest in peace to Linda, Angela, and Earl, and Louis right here.
Did you notice Earl's tombstone?
Yes.
Did you see the symbols?
Yes.
You think
All
that's
right.
maybe why? You what?
What are y'all referring to?
He was a Mason.
Yes.
And the star by his wife would indicate she's, an Eastern Star, which is also a Mason for females.
Yes.
So was there a lodge?
Yes.
And is
There, yes. Mm-hmm. There was a Masonic lodge in East Liverpool.
Something's not adding up. I don't get it.
Did you get anything about a relationship between the victim or the victim when you were talking to her on Spirit Box and her?
No, doesn't seem to be, there wasn't any correlation between the victim and her. They didn't know each other.
So what about Earl, and the suspect?
Nothing from Earl. The Earl did not seem to recognize the suspect either. But I did get the impression that he was in fact local, that he lived in the apartments up the hill there. Like you said, he went down south in the alley and went up the steps. There's a set of apartments up there. I felt like he lived behind there, behind those apartments. He may have lived on that street. It's kind of a rough area back there, even at that time. So I feel like he lived back there and that was local. And to me, my impression was that he was drug addicted.
Okay.
And that's the impression that I was getting. And When me and a friend of mine, Reggie, we actually, did a sort of like we're on now, tried to correlate this, and we did a spirit box session. Well, she came through loud and clear. But at the end, I actually did a portrait of who she said was the killer was. We asked for validation, and we asked her, did I paint the portrait of the killer as he is now? And she validated, yes, that's what he looks like. She gave me his name and his nickname, and I even dreamed of meeting this guy and saw where he worked. And I believe he still works on and off and on. And wherever he works, it has a lot of grease. And I see a lot of rags and bends, so it's something industrial. So I don't know whether it's like a mechanic shop or like a factory or like a fabrication shop where there's a lot of machinery, when there's a lot of grease and rags, because I see him in overalls and had a lot of grease on his hands frequently. I also got that most people, when they walk in, they think he's friendly, but his mindset was a different mindset. He kind of perceives everybody kind of below him. Especially when it came to Earl Tweed, in that I got the impression that he thought of him as stingy and cheap, even though he clearly wasn't. Right. I mean, you can hear, be 50 years later, how kind of a guy he was. He would bend over backwards to help anybody. Right. And it's just, when I got all of this impressions, it was so strong and it was so clear. And even Earl Tweed came and talked to us for a little bit. Once we were done and we were kind of getting ready to finish up on this, both of us were growled at. We were growled at by some disembodied dark entity that doesn't like this type of effort to help heal these wounds, to resolve this crime and to bring the killer to justice. And any pursuit of justice thing didn't like it. And this other psychic guys working like he doesn't even believe in demons, but he's something growled aggressively at him and us.
Right.
All right. Well, we'll submit it to the panel. And we'll bring you back next weekend. So then we'll see if we can't cover this a little more detail. So,
Right.
Yeah, and go from there. And Jennifer, have fun tonight and be safe.
Thank you.
And everybody from coast to coast around the world, catch you on the next show. See you soon. Bye-bye.
See you.
YouTube channel near you.